Alright, I reviewed The Amazing Spider-Man, now it's time to review The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Right then, so, basically, the first Amazing Spider-Man did well critically, and, I hear they're apparently planning to make this whole Amazing Spider-Man thing like its own Marvel Cinematic Universe, only for Spider-Man. There's going to be a whole bunch of Amazing Spider-Man movies, like up to 4, I think, and there's also going to be a Sinister Six movie, and even a Venom movie. It sounded interesting, but a few things happened that canceled all that. The first was the Amazing Spider-Man 2 not doing very well critically and financially, and the second is Sony licensing the character to Marvel Studios for use in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. With all that combined, kind of killed the Amazing Spider-Man series, and to be perfectly honest, I'm kind of sad a little bit by that, because I don't know, I kind of liked the direction they were going, sort of, and I don't know. I mean, I am excited to see the new Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man movie, because it's not going to be an origin story, it's going to focus more on his high school years and all, but yeah, that will be interesting, and I should probably get to reviewing this movie. This gets a lot of hate, as I said, and I'm going to do this. This takes place a little while after the first Amazing Spider-Man, where basically everyone's graduated now, and Peter's still trying to balance being Spider-Man and his relationship with being Gwen, but he kind of promised Gwen's father at some point that he'd that he'd leave Gwen out of this, even though he kind of still wants to date her because he likes her, and, Gwen... they're both really torn up about what to do and all, and eventually Electro, this new villain, comes up and, he's gonna wreck stuff up. And there's also the Green Goblin, who comes in a little bit, and also the Rhino we'll get into those guys a little bit. In reality, though, the Electro is pretty much the villain of this movie. Those two guys we'll talk about a little more later. And yeah. Now, I'm gonna annoy a lot of people right now. I know I'm gonna make a lot of people mad. I like The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Don't shoot. I like The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Let me explain. Alright, so, basically, the thing I like about this movie are a few things. First off, the acting is still good. Andrew Garfield is still a great Spider-Man. Emma Stone is still great as Gwen Stacy. I still like her more as Mary Jane. And I like that this movie's, exploring that, that it's complicated for them to be together because of the whole Spider-Man thing. They touched on this a little bit in 3 and to the end of 2, but I feel like it's done way better here. The kind of things they're involved in, and Gwen wants to help, particularly in, like, the ending action scene. You see that stuff, and as to what happens, which I'm not going to spoil, but, if you read the comics, you know. And, I'll admit it's kind of sad, but whatever. Something about this is, we've also got Harry Osborn, who's not played by James Franco. He's played by the guy who was in Chronicle, who looks a lot like Mark Hamill when he was Luke Skywalker. I swear that guy looks a lot like Mark Hamill. Doesn't he look like Luke Skywalker and Mark Hamill back in the day when he was in the original Star Wars trilogy? I swear he does. Whatever. Anyway, we got him, and, he and Peter used to be friends, and, Norman Osborn, his father, died of some disease that's genetic, so now Harry's got it, and, eventually he becomes the Green Goblin, even though in the original Sam Raimi trilogy it was Norman Osborn that was the Green Goblin, and Harry became the New Goblin, I believe it's called, in the credits of that movie, the third one at least. But, yeah, that happens, and, he's a villain for a little bit, but the main guy here is Electro. Electro is awesome. I love this guy. He's originally this electrician worker he's pretty much a nobody, and, he doesn't really have a whole lot of people that know him. He's kind of like this invisible ghost man and stuff, and, eventually he gets into this accident, and he becomes filled with electricity, and becomes Electro. And he was obsessed with Spider-Man. He thought it was the coolest thing ever, and he eventually met him at some point. And, eventually, things kind of happened, and now Electro's a villain, and Electro was an awesome villain. First off, he has motivation. I believe his turn to being a villain more than, the Lizard in the first movie. And the action scenes with him are amazing. Like, they're so good. Like honestly, and I love the song that plays, like this, like, electric guitar thing. It was pretty awesome, when you see him and, like, Spider-Man, all of them just flying around and stuff, and the electricity and all, it was awesome. I loved those action scenes. Those are pretty cool. And the Green Goblin fight scene eventually around the end, it was alright, I guess, The Rhino, though, unnecessary completely. Why did they put him in the movie? he's like in the intro action scene, and he's not the Rhino. He's stealing parts to become. And like the very end of the movie, which I don't really know how else to talk about this. He's like in the end of the movie, just to like lead into the credits, and he's in there for like 3 minutes. They could have just replaced him with some random bad guy in a suit, and he could have just said, "No one could stop me now." It's like they didn't need to use the Rhino for that. Like, it's weird because he's on the Blu-ray cover, like he's like right there in the Blu-ray cover, right there. He doesn't need to be. He's like up there with Electro and Green Goblin and all that. He doesn't do anything in this movie. Like, I don't understand why they did that. You know, it's kind of weird, but I feel like this balanced the multiple villains thing better than Spider-Man 3, because at least I really liked Electro. Green Goblin, though, whatever. I mean, I can kind of believe, because, you know, what Harry Osborn really needs, like, Spider-Man's blood to, like, cure himself, and, you know, Spider-Man's bit, I don't know if that's a good idea, so, you know. And, you know, as for other stuff, though, I like the relationship drama stuff going on between Gwen and Peter. It's a lot more in this movie, but it's not as painful to watch as Spider-Man 3. I feel, again, because I said in Amazing Spider-Man 1, I like these two as a couple. They have great chemistry. They're cute together and all. And, you know, when they're... Sorry about the cuts. I ran out of space. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. I like Peter and Gwen's relationship stuff. It's done really well, I feel. And, you know, there's a reason given to it. Because, you know, Gwen has actually gotten a scholarship to Oxford. Or is it Oxford? To some kind of college in England. And, you know, she wants to go. And, you know, Spider-Man stuff, I think it's done well. The relationship stuff. The problem is there's too much of it. It's not as bad as Spider-Man 3, where it's really annoying to watch because they're both idiots at points. It really feels like it's just, I don't know, there's a little too much of it, and I don't feel there's enough Spider-Man. It's kind of a problem some people have with Iron Man 3, but, you know, I like that because, you know, I like Tony Stark's character. And again, I like these characters, so I think I can buy into it. I just kind of wish, you know, there's a little more Spider-Man action, because the action scenes in this movie are really good. You know, I just wish there was more of it. And you know, I realize it's kind of a dumb complaint, but, you know, the more you look at this movie, though, the more you realize there are some flaws with it, which I'm not gonna beat around the bush. There are, again, the Rhino I mentioned, and, you know, there are other such things, like, I'm not a huge fan of, like, all the writing, and, you know, there are some things that are kind of meant to tie into future sequels that are not gonna happen, like, you know, there's this thing where Peter meets his father. Apparently there's like a deleted scene, and this puts a lot of emphasis on like the history of Peter's father and stuff and why he ran away, and I really like that. That's a positive, but the problem is they build it up like it's going to be a sequel. Like the ending is setting up to, like, I think it's probably like Sinister Six or a third Amazing Spider-Man movie or whatnot, and it just kind of feels like they knew they were going to do that, but the problem is the movie wasn't good enough to warrant that. I don't know, it'd kind of be like if the first Iron Man movie did terrible, and then the Nick Fury post-credit scene would be pointless because there would be no Avengers movie. It's kind of like that, and unfortunately it's kind of a problem I have with it now, because, you know, and they do a little too much. Like, at least with Iron Man, it's a post-credit scene. If it failed, they could have just removed it in the Blu-ray, and you know, they would just not acknowledge it existed or something. But this one, a lot of the scenes are there with it, and it just feels really weird, and, you know, I don't know. It's not the best well done stuff. And, you know, there's not a lot, and, you know, it's still a nice, well shot movie. There's great action in it. I like the characters, but, you know, there's a few issues with the writing. Some of the villains aren't perfect. There's not enough Spider-Man. And to be perfectly honest, in the first 20 or 30 minutes, I was like, I'm not a huge fan of this movie. Thankfully, it got better as time went along, and I started having a lot of fun with it. But the first few minutes, like, the action wasn't really great, and some of those scenes you could really tell was like a green screen, and that was like before Rhino became Rhino, and like, he was just this weird stereotypical cartoony, and like, it got really Batman and Robin at some moments. It reminded me of that. It didn't any other part, just like that intro part. It was just weird. But yeah, I really like this movie, and there are problems with it, you know. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but I still like it more than Spider-Man 3. I don't think it's as good as The Amazing Spider-Man or the first two Sam Raimi movies, but I still like this movie. I still will defend it if my friends who's probably watching this video are going to fight me. I know you will. Please don't lose respect for me. It's just my opinion. And yeah, this was a fun movie. and I enjoyed it. I'd watch it again. It has problems. I don't think it's perfect, but honestly, overall, I had fun with it, and I think that's the best part. I mean, it's not a perfect movie, but it's a fun movie, and that's really what I look for most. So yeah, I'd give The Amazing Spider-Man 2 an 85%. Entertaining and great action scenes and stuff. Not the best made as a movie. There's problems with it, but overall, it's a fun movie to watch, and I do like it. And yeah, thank you for watching my Spider-Man reviews. Hopefully, if you've seen them, and yeah. Really, these are fantastic superhero movies. Like, even Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 2, they have their problems, but I still think they're fun movies at times. And yeah, those are pretty cool, and I do like them. And I will watch them again. So yeah, I'm glad a lot of people enjoyed this, and you know, I'm looking forward to that. And next series reviews is probably going to be Star Wars. I recorded some already, and you know, for episode 7. I don't know why I did Spider-Man though, because his new movies are coming up to like 2017. But he's going to be in Civil War. Whatever. The point is, I'm done. Can I get the web slingers right this time? Alright. Adios, home slices. I did it! I did it! I got... Ow. Maybe I should just go back to being Batman instead. I could probably impersonate Batman better. Just need to get the voice down. I'm Batman. I'm Batman. I'm Batman. Yeah, that's better.